Let's get started. There we go. Little delay. All right. Welcome back, universe, to Off the Rails with Tom and Mark, episode 46, first ever 46th episode.
Yep, coming to you from Coldwell Banker Wholesale Realty Studio here in beautiful Grafton, Wisconsin.
And today we have an awesome special guest, Teresa, the Tarot Lady. Is that what you would like to go by?
Sure thing, guys.
All right, the
Awesome.
Tarot Lady here, so tune in, ask some questions. It'll be a lot of fun. And Mark, what should we do if we're looking to buy or sell a home?
You should contact Roy at
cbhsr.com. Uh-oh.
Oh, we're getting
Somebody's
some feedback.
phone. We're getting some feedback. That's all right. So, yeah, just listen to Roy. Give him a call, 414-235-0763, or email him, roy@cbhsr.com. They'd love to be your go-to for all your real estate needs. It's like the closer we get to starting, this stuff starts happening. I know you guys probably can't hear the hammering that's going on, but it is. So
But we can't help but address it.
we can't. Yeah. Updates. We got a couple announcements going on. This Saturday, Mark's not going to be there, but we have comedian Nate Ford, countrywide headliner, hosting with me. The local legend Jeff Krieger might show up.
Awesome.
White Trash Bash in Eustisburg. Go to Sliver Facebook page at Sliver Rocks and check out all the details. You don't just party like a rock star, party with a rock star. So we're going to have a white trash trivia contest. I'm giving away $1 million and a bottle of Jack. So that will be the first prize.
It's a novelty $1 million.
And now we have a train in the background. I love it. This is great. Yes, a novelty $1 million bill and a bottle of Jack with some mini red Solo Cup shot glasses to share if you care to share. Otherwise, keep going to our website. Check out our Patreon page. Use our Amazon link to shop on Amazon. So, I think we got everything out of the way. Should we just get right into it?
Yeah, sure. Let's jump in.
All right. Teresa, you are on 4 podcasts. 4 podcasts.
Got any tips for us?
Well, I've been doing podcasting for some time, and I love to podcast. I find it is a really great way to teach because most of my podcasts are focused on educational reasons. And so I think it's a really efficient way to reach people who want to learn things like tarot or astrology or whatnot. So I started doing the podcast as a way to, help people get acquainted with it, or for people who are, I like to say, tarot curious or astrology curious, find an easy, friendly, accessible way to learn.
Cool. Okay, so one of them is Tarot Bites. I listened to that. Short bite-sized lessons on how to read tarot.
Yes.
Mark is just sorry, dude.
The train in the background.
I believe there is a loud horn that goes off at noon, too, so maybe we shouldn't have started.
Maybe I should
early.
close the window. What time is it?
1 o'clock. Don't worry about it. We're fine. So back to Astrology Bites and Talking Shop with Teresa and Bree, a monthly podcast for metaphysical business owners. So you talk to other people that do the same thing?
Yes.
Okay.
The goal with the thing is for metaphysical businesses, they're actually very complicated with their own sets of challenges. And, a lot of people who are mystical or metaphysical, oftentimes what they do is they have trouble really figuring out the business part. And so my friend Bree, who has a website, BrieAnastassi.com, we started doing this podcast a couple of years ago because we saw it was a real need, again, to educate people about the business-oriented part of things.
Well, I would think a lot of people who do have that business in mind don't really go to business college.
Right.
So, we know firsthand starting a business. I went to medical school and then decided we're going to start a business. I'm like, man, I should have went to business school.
It's way different.
Yeah, this is weird.
And it's interesting because people who go into the metaphysical industry, I think a lot of times they assume that it's going to be quote unquote easy money. And it's not. It's really hard work. And doing the business aspect, they don't really consider that. They don't realize that you have to, file taxes, or you have to pay for your own health insurance, or you have to market your business. And so that's one of the big reasons why we started that podcast is to, once again, it's all about education. Because a lot of people come into it, they don't go to business school, they don't understand that if you want it to succeed, and you want to make a living doing it, you have to actually treat it like a darn business.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that might be good for anyone who's not in the metaphysical world, too. Just
Mhm.
business advice from business owners.
Yeah.
So do a lot of these metaphysical businesses work with each other? Is there a lot of cross-promoting?
Some people cross-promote, some people don't. I mean, I
Okay.
think it's like any business. I cross-promote a lot
Mm-hmm.
because I always say there's a lot of different people looking for a lot of different things, and I'm not the right person for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
So I like to cross-promote and, share other people that might be a better fit, or sometimes people come, maybe, they want something different, like they come for a tarot reading, but they actually want a psychic medium.
Mm-hmm.
So I like to cross-promote that way.
Okay.
And of course, I also like to share my friends' books and
Yeah.
podcasts and stuff they're doing too, because I like to say I like to share things because, it's the right thing to do. It's community.
Yeah. It's
So,
almost like a therapist, saying, "Oh, well, you should go to this other therapist because
Yes.
that's their thing is couples therapy. That's not my thing, or whatever it may be."
absolutely. I think it's really interesting because a lot of people assume it's all the same, and it's not. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
readers have different things they specialize in. An astrologer is different than a tarot reader. A psychic medium is different than a tarot reader. There's all different types of people who do this work, and there's different niches. So you've got to really find the right fit. Otherwise, you're going to come in and be disappointed because it isn't what you wanted.
Mm-hmm.
I understand that in physical therapy school.
Yeah.
Everybody has a part of the body they like working on.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I mean, if you have hand issues, some people love dealing with the hand. And other people are like, dude, we don't even study hand anatomy because it's so complex. But some people get a kick off of, why don't you go hang out with that physical
Right.
therapist who really enjoys the hand?
Okay.
I'm good with shoulders. I'll fix your shoulder really well. But so I understand that aspect of it too. So you do another fourth podcast here called What If, a 6-part series for tarot pros on life, death, and everything in between.
Yeah, actually, that is just a series. It's just a 6-part
Oh, it's
series.
just a 6-part podcast?
Yeah.
So it's
It's
done.
all done. I did
Okay.
it with my friend Walt Amberstone. Him and his wife run a place called the Tarot School, and they're elders. And he one time said, I'd really love to do something just to address some of the things about getting old in our community, because that's the other thing a lot of us don't think about. You're going to get old, and what happens if you get sick and you can't work anymore? What happens when you retire and you don't have enough to live on? So we did that whole little series as a service for older tarot readers so that they could begin thinking about retirement and planning for that and being set up for your long-term care and the things, again, that we don't want to talk about.
Yeah. No one likes to think about that kind of stuff.
Nobody
I remember as a child having to teach my grandpa how to use a TV remote control. I can't imagine nowadays trying to teach my grandpa at that time what the internet was.
My daughter's going to have to teach me how to use the next type of iPhone or whatever it is.
That inserts into your eye.
Yeah.
Yeah, when in doubt in technology, you always talk to a kid because they're always going to know the latest and greatest stuff.
Mm-hmm.
My father, when I took care of him, he was in his 90s, and I had to put everything over on the computer because he had a stroke, so he couldn't write anymore. So everything had to go over on the computer so I could manage it and manage all of his bank accounts, and he was just blown away by that.
Yeah.
How do you do that? And I can't explain it.
He's trying to keep up with an abacus.
Yeah, pretty much.
So tell us a little bit about the... Wait a minute. Hold on. Let's pump the brakes a sec. On your Facebook page, you say tarot reading, medium, and astrologist?
I don't think I do mediumship. They might,
Okay.
Sometimes they have those settings that come up automatically, so
Yeah.
you get
Oh, okay. Yeah.
connected with that, whether you are or not. I don't
Mhm.
consider myself a medium.
Okay.
We could say that I've had experiences that are nice and spooky on that realm, but there are people who are specifically into
That is
mediumship.
all my medium questions.
Oh no! Well, if
There
you
it went.
if you have questions about it, I know a lot about mediumship, so I'm happy
Okay.
to answer them. Though.
Well, let's just do a basic question. What exactly is a medium?
So a medium is someone who speaks to the dead.
Okay.
So that would be like if you saw the show Long Island Medium. She's that lady with that big giant hair, where she'll walk up
Yes.
to people and say, "Oh my God, you got someone around you, and it looks like this," and it's that type of thing. That's
Mhm.
very different. They specifically work on communicating with people who passed on.
Okay. So I always think of tarot. Does tarot also have to deal with contacting your ancestors or whatever? Or
There are some spreads you can use for that.
okay.
There are readers who also specialize in that. But tarot is usually connected more with the here and now and what's ahead.
Okay.
So much like our friend Kevin Messerschmidt. the life coach.
Yes.
I saw a lot of similarities with that because he talks about clarifying your life,
Yes.
seeing what your goals are, seeing what the obstacles in the way are, and how to get around them. And
Right.
stop lying to yourself, basically, was his.
Yeah, take personal responsibility is my big thing.
Okay.
I think a lot of times, here's what I like to think, is that our life is a series of choices. You know, I made a choice to come here today. If I didn't make that choice, I wouldn't be here with you guys, right?
Right.
And we wouldn't be recording this podcast. Well,
Mhm.
everything in your life is a series of choices. So when you work with tarot, what you're doing is you're looking at where your choices have led up to this point and the potential of where you're probably going based on the trajectory of where you've been and how things are looking. But, you know, at any time, you can make a different decision. If the cards show, for example, that this may be a difficult year with your career, well, you might want to start thinking about, do I want to stay in this job?
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's really supposed to get you thinking about the choices you're making so that you can make good choices. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
No, it does. Now, I have another friend who does tarot as well, and I was asking her about the history of tarot cards, and it kind of went against what I read the history of tarot cards.
There's a lot of, like, different thoughts about that.
Okay.
What did you hear, first off?
What I heard was totally different. Well, I'll start with what I read.
Okay.
So whatever you want me to do, I'm going to do the
No,
opposite.
I want to hear both.
Okay, it came from Turkey and moved to Italy in, like, the 14th century.
There's debate on that.
Yes. Okay. Then I heard that the tarot, the church was very oppressive on everything and kind of like the tarot reading psychic world. So the tarot cards were to hide from the church, say, no, we're just playing a game, but we're actually still practicing like pagan ritual rites stuff, things like that. Wrong.
Somebody got that stuff all wrong.
Okay. Straighten me out.
So actually, tarot cards the earliest cards are traced back to Italy, not Turkey.
Malmluck game cards is what I heard.
Well, they were originally created as a game.
Okay.
I mean, they weren't for divination.
Yes.
The divination came later.
Okay.
So there was none of this. We're practicing divination in secret. And by the way, divination has been around a long, long time.
Yeah.
People have been, since the beginning of time, tossing bones and looking at eclipses and
tea leaves. Yeah.
Exactly, all that stuff. You know, if I always say you can find anything to do divination with. Eventually, someone's going to find a divinatory purpose for it. But tarot cards were originally a game, and it's still actually played as a game in many parts of Europe. So it was never originally supposed to be for divination. It became a tool for divination when some guy wrote a book, I think it was in the 1700s, and his name is Ataya, which is, his real name is Aliette, spelled backwards. So, anyhow, without going into all the specifics there. But he wrote a book on how to use the cards for divination.
Okay.
And so once he did that, then they got very popular for divination. And in 1909, the mystic Arthur Edward Wade commissioned the artist Pamela Coleman Smith to create the Rider-Waite-Smith tarot deck. And that got it really popular, and again, associated with mysticism and esoteric things, and the divination thing all got in. But again, originally, it was really a game, and it's still played as a game to this day.
Do you know how to play the game?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I don't care about that.
Is it a game like solitaire, or is it a game like poker?
People play it together.
Can
Okay.
I gamble on it?
Yeah, I think you could.
Because
You can gamble with anything.
Yeah,
In
we could gamble
Vegas.
on
Sure.
worm races.
yeah. All right. So the tarot deck, 78 cards,
Yes.
5 suits, 22 trump cards. I'm going off of memory.
There are 22 in the major arcana,
Okay.
and then the 56 are the minor arcana, and the minor arcana has 4 different suits. They have wands, wands, pentacles, swords, and cups. And those are associated with the elements and all kinds of other things.
Okay.
And the Fool, right? Or is that a major
The
arcana?
Fool is one of the major arcana. Now, the
Okay.
major arcana symbolizes, like, the big picture. It is the lessons that we're learning in life. It's like fate, things that are happening that might be outside of our control. And the minor arcana symbolizes our day-to-day life and, you know, things we can control and the people in it that affect our lives.
Okay.
So my sister-in-law, I was visiting her. She lives out in Boston, the Boston area. We ended up
Yeah.
in Salem for a day,
Right on.
and she bought a Thoth deck.
Yep.
And she tried it out that night with a bunch of us, and it has a bunch of things like the cups and the swords. How related to tarot is the Thoth deck? Is it the same thing, or is it?
That's a tarot deck, but that's the one designed by Aleister Crowley.
That's why she was drawn to it, because that occult stuff is kind of fascinating. I don't know how much you're into the occult type.
I'm interested in some of that, but I wouldn't consider myself like some big magician.
Well, yeah, I like the history of it.
Oh, it's fascinating.
Yeah.
It's very fascinating. That deck and the Rider-Waite-Smith deck are the two most popular tarot decks.
Okay.
Most modern decks now that are come out, and there's so many to choose from. But now, back in the day when I started, there's very, very few to choose from. In fact, my first deck were neither one of those. It was the Marseilles deck, which is the most hardest deck to learn with. So, of course, but that was the only thing available that I could find in the bookstore. Mm-hmm. So I walked home with that Marseilles deck and struggled to learn it. And then the next deck I picked up was the Rider-Waite-Smith deck. So the Marseilles, the Rider-Waite-Smith, and the Thoth deck are the three most widely, they're the three classics.
Okay.
And so a lot of the modern decks that are coming out now are based on the structure of one of those particular decks. So for example, you could get like a baseball deck. You could get my favorite is the Baroque Bohemian Cats Tarot, which is nothing more than a bunch of cats dressed in Victorian clothes. It's kind of
sign me up.
Yeah, it's kind of ridiculous, but it's I love that stupid deck.
We'll find a link for that and post it.
Yeah,
I'm sure
on our Amazon
there's
page.
a Harry Potter deck too.
There's a deck for everything. There's a Hello Kitty tarot deck.
Awesome.
So you can find. Well, that one's really rare now. So if you get a copy of it, you're going to be spending like a couple $100 for it.
Wow.
And it's not even that great.
So beyond the theming, is there like a purpose for each deck? Would you use the Thoth deck for a certain thing versus using the Marseilles deck for something else?
It's a matter of preference.
Okay.
There really is just a matter of preference. Some people, like, for me, it's all about the art. And I want to see a really beautiful deck, and I want to see, I'm very visual, so I want to see figures doing things. Mm-hmm. People who want something more stark and plain might go with the Marseilles deck. And there's people who like the Thoth deck because they like the art, and maybe they like Aleister Crowley. It's never been my favorite deck, even though I have it. Yeah. It just doesn't appeal to me.
But when people are paying you money for a real tarot reading and you slap down a Hello Kitty, like, hang in there.
Oh, God. Well, that's why I always say I never read with my Baroque Bohemian Cats tarot, because here's what I'm going to say. I'm going to say, oh, my God, your future looks adorable. So...
where are my allergies going?
Yeah.
So do you have any, like, custom-made decks that are unique or anything like that? Like, the art is
unique? She has the tarot coloring book that you can purchase.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
And that's actually, the art in that is from the Rider-Waite-Smith deck. But I don't have a custom deck of my own. There may or may not be one that I'm working on, but of course we cannot reveal those things.
Understood.
Yes.
But there are certain decks that I have from different artists, and a lot of times artists will give me their decks too because they want to see if I dig it. Mm-hmm. But there are some decks that come across my way that I really fall in love with. One deck was the Fountain Tarot, which was designed by these three artists out of Colorado, and it's just amazing, gorgeous deck. The art is really different. It really stood out to me. And once in a while I get other decks too that the art just doesn't appeal. It's ugly. I would never use it. I wouldn't want to even bring it in front of somebody. So for me, again, it's all about the art. How does it make me feel?
Okay. Does it channel you or whatever?
Yeah, absolutely. Because, each artist has a different interpretation of the cards. And it's really important for the person who's doing the reading to pick one that really speaks to them. Now, there are readers that will sometimes let the sitter or the person who's coming for the reading pick the deck that appeals to them. And I would never do that because I don't care which one you what appears to you, because I have to look at it.
Yeah.
I have to look at it. I have to feel it. I have to get my feelings. You may like the Hello Kitty tarot, and I might feel like, I don't want to read with that dude. No. So I think that it's really important for the reader to really have a deck they love.
Okay.
Does it matter if the cards come upside down?
Yes.
Yes, that's what
There's a lot of controversy about that in tarot. So I started reading tarot many, many years ago. And when I started, there's, again, very few decks on the market. There's very few books. There was no internet. So the book I had reversals in it. So I thought, oh, God, you have to learn these reversals, right? I didn't know any better.
Like a wrestler.
Right. So
I'm in a headlock. I got to know how to reverse it, not just give one.
So, I learned the reversals, but when I discovered the internet and the community of readers there, I discovered most modern readers don't read reversals, which is interesting. And they say, well, you don't need it, and why would you turn, like, the Mona Lisa upside down? You got all the information you need right there. Some people think if you reverse them, it's going to make it more negative. And, that's just bogus. And I always say, if you're not learning reversals, you're missing out on subtle nuances that a reversal would indicate. So let's use an example. We'll use the devil card, which is very feared by people who don't know tarot. And they assume right away it means, like something satanic. And it doesn't. It actually means bondage, getting stuck, like maybe being stuck with your addiction. So when you reverse it, what it's showing is a different perspective. It's a release. That's why I think the reversals are really essential. So I use them.
Okay. So when you're preparing a tarot reading, how do these cards get inverted? What are you doing to randomize the deck exactly?
How you shuffle it.
Yeah, is there a certain way to shuffle?
No, you just shuffle any old way you want, and then whatever comes up, comes up.
Okay. Is there a special way to reveal the cards, like a Vegas dealer will deal it a very certain way? Do you have a certain way
people
that you deal?
pick them, right? Or,
no, it depends on what you're doing. There's different types of spreads and stuff.
Okay, let's hear it.
Now, my work is over the phone, so nobody's picking anything.
Okay, so it's all you.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's very few times now that I ever see a client in person any longer. I stopped doing that about 2 years ago. So I just have like a couple of my old regulars that will still come in.
Okay.
But I switched to the phone like years ago, and actually, I have to laugh. I switched to the phone years ago because one of my elderly clients broke her hip. I used to see all my clients in person, and she broke her hip. She goes, "Oh my God, I can't get up those stairs. Can I do it over the phone?" And I said, "I don't know. Let's try it." So we tried it, and it worked great. And there were no distractions. She didn't have to come. She wasn't like stressed out. And so, of course, she told all of her elderly friends who were clients, and they said, "Well, we're not coming by you anymore. Forget this. We're going to do it over the phone." So a lot of like my local clients and started switching to doing it over the phone. And then when I put up a website and started working with the website, suddenly, I'm doing readings with people in the Philippines and Italy. I'm doing readings.
Yeah, you're out of car range now.
Yeah, it's all over the place. So, I'm the one picking the cards. I'm the one shuffling it. But in answer to your question, I had to go around to get there.
There you go.
There's not really a specific way that I turn them over. It's got to be facing me based on the shuffle.
Okay.
And there are some spreads where you fan the cards out and you pick. So sometimes it depends on the spread. It depends on, what you're using, whether or not you pick the cards or just take off the top of the deck.
All right. Is there a link to the astrology part?
What do you mean?
Is
to tie astrology into tarot.
Yeah.
So astrology is connected to the cards. Like, for example, especially in the majors, some of the cards are connected to planets or they're connected to signs. For example, the Emperor is connected with Aries. The Hierophant is connected with Taurus. Lovers are connected with Gemini. But then you would have let's see, which one? Chariot is connected to Cancer. Doing off the top of my head the planets, I'm trying to think in there. A death card would be, Saturn. So they're connected with all the planets in that. Now, of course, I've got a friend named Robert Place, and Robert Place wrote a book on the history of tarot. If you're interested in learning all the history stuff, this is the guy to follow. He is a scholar. He's brilliant.
Okay.
He's designed some of my favorite decks, like the Alchemical Tarot. And Robert does this thing at the Met, where you get to go in and look at old ancient tarot cards and learn about the history of them. And he said all this astrological correlation, someone just made that up.
Yeah.
So, that's what he said.
Well, one could argue all of human endeavor is just made up.
Well, of course. Everything is, right?
Science is
it
just
had to be
observing
thought of
things
at one time.
trying to make sense of what you see. So.
But it actually, I like the astrology thing because I did not start with tarot. I actually started with astrology.
Okay.
I got into astrology when I was a kid because, like most teenagers, you're trying to figure out who the heck you are. And I had a girlfriend whose mother was really unusual. She was a pianist, she was a therapist, and she also was an astrologer. And she said, "Hey, let me do your astrology chart." I said, "Sure." And so
now, astrology chart is different from like reading a horoscope.
Yes.
Okay.
I'll get back to that in a second.
Okay.
So she laid out my chart and started telling me things. I'm like, wow, this stuff actually makes a lot more sense than this, crap my parents are telling me. Yeah, right on. So I started studying the astrology. In fact, she's been passed on for many years now, but I still have her original astrology books, and they're wrapped in plastic, and they're very dear to me.
Yeah, heirlooms.
Yes, they're heirlooms, and that's actually what led me to tarot. I was in the old Walden books. You guys remember that? Or are you too young? Okay, you remember Walden books.
I don't read books.
That's my one guilty pleasure is books.
Okay.
Oh my God, books. Oh, I spend all my money on books. And I was in Walden Books and looking for astrology books, and that's where I found the first tarot deck. So astrology led me there. But yes, there's a difference between an astrological chart and just your horoscope. The horoscope in the papers, I think sometimes people don't actually look at what's happening on the planets. They just put on whatever they feel.
And they could shuffle them up, and everybody would. They seem to be agreeable for everybody, every one of them.
But there are some people who actually go and do the astrology and the planets. It's actually a lot of math. And if you hate math, you're going to hate astrology. When I used to teach astrology, that was the thing. As soon as it was all fun. We're talking about, what's a Scorpio and blah, blah, blah. As soon as I brought up the math, the tears would come and everybody would quit.
You taught astrology?
I used to teach astrology.
Where
at? Right in my office.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then?
People hate the math. They just want to know what a Scorpio is, what a Gemini is, and am I going to get along? Should I date a Taurus? Nobody wants to hear that, well, actually, there's a lot of geometry involved, and you've got to get down with that geometry. So the horoscopes, some of them will give you a general idea. It's based usually on your sun sign. But an astrological chart, that's going to look at where all the planets are, the day you were born. What does that mean for you, your potential, the potential problems, your talents, your skills, your sore spots. And then with astrology, it isn't just the birth chart. Then we look at what the current planets are doing and how that might be impacting the energy around you so that you can make good decisions.
So here's the $1 million question.
Yes.
Is Pluto a planet?
Yes. That was so controversial for astrologers. Like, wait, it's so important to us, So, most of us are like, la, 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 it's planet. So I know it got demoted, but Pluto plays a very important role in the astrology chart because Pluto symbolizes the areas where you're regenerating, transforming, and wherever Pluto is currently transiting in your chart right now is going to tell a lot about, what you are in the middle of transforming in your own life. So it's actually quite important.
Okay. Does it have to do with the gravity pulling on you?
I have no idea.
No idea?
It's not about the gravity.
The alignment, or what are the core concepts?
The core concept behind it, in a nutshell, if I had to speak in layman's terms, you're really looking at the energy.
Okay.
And how that might be affecting you. And so it's kind of like the moon. The moon, it controls the tides of the ocean and a woman's cycle, right? So there's got to be something around the energy with it. So that's how we tend to look at it. What's the energy?
I do say that to some people a lot of times, because working in the medical field, some of these people will be like, astrology is hokum.
Right.
That's a Molly word. But then they'll be like, oh, it's a full moon. It's gonna be packed in here tonight. Mm-hmm. You're just believing in astrology right there, sir.
Yep.
By saying everything goes crazy on a full moon, it does.
I used to bartend, and let me tell you, full moons, that was almost every time there'd be a fight or some kind of bogus thing going on during that time. Mm-hmm. So I do know that there is something about that energy that affects things. And, there are people who don't believe in, like, tarot and astrology, or they're skeptical about it. And I don't have a problem with that, but I always say, if you don't believe in it, don't disrespect it, though.
Yeah.
Just leave it alone. Then ignore it. It's kind of like, I hate sports, so, you're not going to see me.
So they don't exist.
Well, in my world, they don't exist. So, you're never going to see, like, the sports channel on my TV, but, I'm not going to go and bash someone for watching it. I'm going to be like, hey, man, if you're into the Packers, go for it. I want the Packers to win, even if I don't care about it. So I'm kind of like, if you don't like it, who cares? Just move about. Go on.
Is there anything we could do in astrology to help the Packers?
I'm sure there's a guy on it, dude.
Yeah, I'm sure they probably have somebody helping them to try to maybe pick the right players. I don't know. That might be
so it's entirely reactive. You can't be proactive. You can't accomplish something through astrology.
Yes, you can.
Only get okay.
No, I'm all about proactivity.
Okay.
And personal responsibility. Here's the thing. Let's use an example. So let's say that, we'll use you as an example. Let's say right now the planets are just not friendly in your chart. And they're saying, well, looks like it's going to be a difficult time for you financially. Well, that doesn't mean that you're going to sit back and say, well, I guess I'm screwed. No. Instead, a good astrologer or tarot reader are going to help you to make good decisions so that you work with the energy. So let me give you an example. I had Saturn going through my second house a couple of years ago. And I've got a friend who's an astrologer, and she's not a very proactive thinker. And she said, oh, well, it looks like you're going to have no money for the next couple of years. I said, that's not how I work. Mm-hmm. Saturn is the planet of lessons and limitations, but it's also a favor structure. So I knew that during that period, I had to set really good, reasonable goals for myself and create structures to really support my money, which is what I did. Because I've been working with astrology for 30-something years, I know how it works. And so basically, I went through that whole period. No, I wasn't broke. I had no problems. And the big goal I set was to pay my house off early. And I am about 1 year away from paying it off 15 years early.
Oh, wow.
But that's
Congratulations.
thank you. But that is because I don't just sit back and it's not a passive thing. Tarot's not passive either. You know, sometimes people get a reading and often a big question is about love. Will I meet the one? And the cards might show that, hey, this is a great year to meet somebody. That doesn't mean you sit home in your pajamas eating Ben and Jerry and hope he's going to show up at your door. It doesn't. Yeah, you got to you still have to do your part. You know, so.
But I ordered like 5 pizzas. Guys were coming.
Yeah, so, you know, I mean, it's really funny because people sometimes assume that, or they assume that, you know, with tarot or astrology, that someone's just going to lay out your future for you. They're going to lay out every single detail.
You can sit back and watch.
And you don't have to live your life. It's just going to all happen to you. Life doesn't happen to you. You create it.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
You know, and you can have a perfectly great reading that says, hey, everything looks great right now. Fab. You can go out and say, you know what, that was such a great reading. I'm going to go smoke some crack now. And
everything's coming up, Mark. I'm doing it.
So, I mean, again, you still have to make decisions about it. You cannot, you know, I'll never forget, I had a lady, here's an example. I had a lady one time got a reading. And one of the other common questions are the troubled relationships. Or the will he come back question, that stuff. And anyhow, she was asking about a particular relationship that she's having a lot of problems with. And what the card shows that you guys need to do some really good, healthy communication here. And she says, well, you know, so you think I should be reaching out and communicating? I said, are you guys communicating now? She goes, well, somewhat. I said, well, reach out, communicate, work on really getting some healthy dialogues going on here. So the next time I hear from her, she says, so I showed up at his house at 1 a.m. and I was drunk and so was he. And we got in a physical altercation. Do you think there's a chance now? I'm like, now what kind of lack of common sense is that?
Wait
Who
till the
does that?
restraining order expires.
You know, but there are sometimes people like that. They hear the thing they want to hear and then they go off and do something really goofy.
Okay, you said Saturn was in your second house. What is a house and stuff mean?
Okay, so in an astrological chart, the chart, it looks like a big pizza. So we like pizza, right?
Yeah, I can get behind that.
Okay, I don't eat pizza, by the way.
Okay.
It's one of the one things, it's like, if that was my last supper, I'd be really pissed. But anyhow, so it looks like a big pizza. It's it's a 360-degree circle, and it's got 12 houses. Each are 30 degrees. So it looks like it's a slice of pizza with 12 houses. And each house represents a different area of your life. So like the first house is the way you present yourself to the public. Second house is your money. Third is your thinking and your neighbors and your siblings. Fourth is your home, your roots, your mommy issues. Fifth house is romance, fame. It's also your children, your creativity, sports. By the way, I have Saturn natally in my fifth house, which is probably why I don't like sports. Anyhow, okay. Sixth house would be your work, your health. Seventh house is relationships and partnerships. Eighth house is joint finances, taxes, inheritances. That's the house of sex, too. And death. I know, it's weird.
Sex and money.
That's all together. Then the ninth house is higher education and travel and philosophy. 10th house is your career, your reputation, your honors. 11th house is friends, hopes, goals, and wishes. And the 12th house is your undoing and your karma. I was so
hoping you were going to say wild card.
Well, it is. You know, the 12th house is kind of a wild card. That's where, that's your hidden stuff.
Okay.
And it's also your secret enemy. So, you know, hopefully your 12th house isn't got too many problems there.
Okay. Now, for astrology, is it the moment you were born or the moment you're conceived? Because I thought I heard that there was other astrologers that go by that date compared to...
Moment you're born.
Moment you're born?
As soon as you come out of the chute.
Why is that
Because,
important?
boom, that's the day you landed on the Earth. Because the planets are all in relation to Earth.
So it has to do with being out of the womb?
Yes.
Okay.
So when I was planning my children, because I planned them by astrology, that's how... I'm very much kind of a control.
Honey? Mars is in the right place.
It's time to go. I'm very much into control. So I love controlling. Hey, I gotta admit it. I'm kind of I never realized I was a control freak till I let somebody else tell me what to do once. I'm like, hey, wait a minute, I don't like this.
This ain't working.
Wouldn't have made a good soldier.
No, oh my God. I would be the guy in Full Metal Jacket who blew away the drill instructor. I do not take orders well. So I decided I'm going to plan these kids by astrology. And so my daughter, I wanted a Leo for the first child. And so I had everything planned. She had the perfect date to arrive on. Everything was perfect. Well, this kid comes 3 weeks early. Of course she does, because you can't control that.
Oh.
Yeah, and she came 3 weeks early, screwed up my master plan. She just made it as a Leo, but I did her chart in the hospital, I kid you not. And I looked at the chart, and she hates the story.
Looking at the clock, just sweating, holding it in.
Listen, hey, you know what, though? That's what I
get
did.
in here and step on it.
That's what I did. That's what I did with my son, actually. With her, it was no choice. This kid was coming. And she hates the story because she's like, well, wow, you make me sound like a monster. I said, no, it's just I did the chart. I looked in the hospital, I'm like, oh my God, this kid is going to be hard. And she was a stubborn little girl, so she was a challenge. Now, my son, I had his planned out too. And so, you know, of course, water breaks, he's coming. I'm like, okay, he's still going to make Aquarius, but I got to hold out a little bit longer just to make sure we get everything good. And, you know, he got a really great astrology chart. So I looked at his first thing right in the hospital. I'm doing these charts. I'm like, good. This one's going to be easy. And he was actually a pretty easy kid overall.
All right. So you're holding on for it.
Holding on. You know, the whole thing with that, you never know. You could have the best astrology chart and still be a jerk. You know, so there are some things that could happen. It's not like this perfect science. It's not like, oh, you got a good chart, boy, you're going to be like the most awesome, richest person. You can still goof it up. You can have everything going for you astrologically, or have a horrible chart and be the world's greatest person. You still have to work with the energy.
It's easier to hold on, I think, than try to hurry it up.
Yes.
Eat spicy food, plug your nose and blow.
Exactly.
My daughter was born 6 weeks early, so maybe she was trying to get in on some
She had a
astrology.
plan.
Yeah.
She wanted to get here when she got here. You know, I found astrology was so interesting, though, raising my kids, because they're two really very, very different people, and they're born at exactly half a year apart. I mean, not half a year, but I mean...
that math doesn't work out.
Well, they're a year and a half apart, but I mean, it's exactly like she's a 0 degree Leo, he's a 0 degree Aquarius. And so they're very different. So as a parent, I'm like, okay, I do have to deal with these kids two very different ways. And my mother used to say, wow, you're really hard on her. I said, you don't know this astrology chart. This kid needs it like harder, you know, and this one I can like relax on. I can pick my battles wisely. And so it really helped.
Somebody's got a favorite.
Well, no. My daughter and I are thick as thieves. The women in our family, we are thick.
Oh, boy.
Women stick together in our family. So he's lucky. But he just got a lucky chart. But, you know, I gave me ideas on, like, you know, what do they need from me? So I can, like, also really make sure that I'm cognizant of how does she communicate? What does she need to hear from me? So I find this very helpful for things like that.
Very cool. Excellent. So, with your tarot readings and astrology, you mentioned in our conversations that you don't like the counseling part of it. A lot of people come to you for
I don't mind counseling.
The death grieving.
Oh no, I love that stuff.
Oh, you do?
Oh my God, yes.
I need to read emails better.
What I don't like are people who, you know, have unrealistic expectations, or people who are coming that should be coming for a reading that should be getting counseling. There's a very big difference. Okay. I love giving advice. I love looking at situations. I love working with grieving people. That's actually one of my favorite. Okay. If you are going through a loss, I am totally down with that. I'm very good at dealing with that. So loss is a subject I love talking about. Okay. In fact, I have a friend who wrote a book all about grieving. Her name is Megan Devine. It's a fabulous book called It's Okay That You're Not Okay. And I think everybody should read that book. It's a book that I really feel has given me a lot of guidance also on how to help my clients who are grieving. So, but tarot's not a substitute for counseling. Okay. Not a substitute. So there are some people that shouldn't be getting a tarot reading. They should be getting counseling. It's a very different animal. And when that comes into the office, that I'm always steering them in the right direction. Okay. So I hope I was clear on that.
Yeah, well, yeah, I know.
But, you know, a lot of people, when they come to readers, sometimes they want to see the future. I think a lot of people, that's mostly what they come for. And again, the readings can only show you so much. You still have to live your life, and it can't give you a guarantee for your future. It gives you guidance. But a lot of people do come in because they're dealing with some really difficult things, and maybe they have no one else to talk about, or they want to sort things out. So the tools of tarot and astrology can be a wonderful way to help you to sort out what's going on in your life.
Okay. So I kind of got... Molly, go ahead.
We had a comment quick from Nate.
Okay.
He's kind of jokingly saying, any thoughts or predictions on this Packer season?
Oh, God.
And then he said he probably missed it, but what got you into it? But you were already covered.
Right. Well, I'm the
wrong... the Packers born? We got to find that out.
I'm the wrong person to do a Packer prediction because I know so little about sports, and I'm not kidding. I know so little about sports, I would not trust me to give a prediction. So yeah, I just want the Packers to win so my son is happy.
Do you ever get people approaching you with like gambling tips?
Oh yeah, I actually yes. Now that is to me, I hate gambling.
Okay.
I have an anti-gambling bias. I'm not the right reader for you. If you're looking for someone to pick numbers in that, I am so against it that I'm not the right person to talk to because I have a bias. And that's another thing with readers. If you have a bias about a certain subject or something, send them to someone else. I just don't believe in gambling. I grew up in a household. My parents were really religious, Catholic. And one of the things my dad always said is that, you don't gamble. It's really sinful. So that's kind of clicked in the back of my head. And so I see it as a waste of money. It's like, okay, that $10 that you just bet on a horse, I could use that to pay off that mortgage early. See what I think?
Yeah, but it could have been 10-1, and
yeah, but I don't want
to.
No,
he's the gambler in the room.
Yeah, no, I don't. But there are people who will come that they want gambling tips or some nonsense like that.
Yeah,
I'm like,
when should I go to Vegas? Yeah.
Right, and it's like there was a guy once who got a reading from me. I mean, it's not funny, but I guess it is. It's funny to me. And he goes, I just want to know if I'm going to be successful with my gambling. The cards were terrible. I said, this doesn't look very good, dude. You need to kind of like watch it. Well, anyhow, apparently he started losing a lot. Then he blamed me.
No.
He said, yeah, that tarot reading, ever since I got that, I started losing. I'm like, dude, it showed that you're on a losing streak.
Why didn't you tell him, you can play craps and bet with the house against yourself?
Because I don't know what that means.
Well, you can bet against the roller.
Yeah,
you don't win as much.
I know nothing about gambling. I was actually in a casino for the first time in my life 2 years ago.
Yeah.
My husband was doing some sort of an art show there. He goes, we're going to be at Potawatomi. I'm like, yeah, okay. And I got to tell you guys, I walked in there. It was the most depressing place I've ever been in my life.
Oh, I agree. Yeah,
I had to get out of there because I'm looking around. I'm like, I'm really sensitive to energy. And I said, these people shouldn't be gambling. They need to get the hell out of here. Yeah. I know. So, not my thing.
See, your dad was strict on you with gambling, and when I was in school, I would get Tom Klein to the office, family emergency, and he'd drive me to the dog track. Like in his Uncle Buck station wagon. And he'd take me out of school and go, it was fun.
Mark, apparently your head is very shiny.
Ooh, all right.
That's a comment from somebody.
So, when you do a reading,
yes,
how do you set the scene? I read your website. You mentioned candles and things like that.
Number, right?
Well, the way that it works for me is I've got to be in my right frame of mind, which sounds weird, but I think it's like anything. You're again setting a stage, so I look at it like I have to be in my right frame of mind. So I have to be comfortable. I have to make sure it's not too hot in my office.
Sorry about that in here. It's a little.
I'll
warm
survive.
It's a little warm in here.
And so I like to light my candles. That signals that my day has started. Burn a little incense. And then I get set in my favorite chair, got my favorite mug of tea, got a cat nearby, and then I'm ready to roll. And then the client will call in, and then we go from there.
What does the cat do?
Oh, they're there to comfort. When I used to see people in my office, some people would request hanging out with the cats.
Really?
The cats would come and sit on their lap.
Some cats have great energy, Tom.
Yes.
Yeah, tell us about the energy you were talking about. You could feel the energy at Potawatomi.
Yeah, well, I'm very sensitive to...
Okay.
Well, I'm sensitive all the way. And I think you have to be pretty sensitive to do this type of work because... And you got to have a lot of empathy and compassion because you're dealing with a lot of people's heavy stuff. Especially, again, when you're doing things like dealing with people who are grieving. You can't be some stone cold... You're not going to relate to them. People aren't going to relate to you. But energy means that I'm very conscious of how I feel. And how I'm feeling around situations and around people. And when I walk into a place, I pay attention to that. I'm tuned into that.
Okay.
And that might sound weird if you're not like that, but some people, like myself, are just, we pick up on things. And I never ignore that. I never ignore my gut feelings because it will save your life if you really pay attention. There's a book called The Gift of Fear, which is all about paying attention to when something is creepy because it's going to save your life. I think everybody should read that book. And I've got a great example of energy. So years ago when I lived in New York, I met this guy. And I have a very specific type that I like. I love artists. I love musicians. I love really lanky men, really long hair. That's always my thing. And so this guy had
We're out, Mark.
Sorry, guys.
You're like portly bald man?
Well, so... Hey, I'm open-minded, but this is back in the day too, and so I have my specific type. And anyhow, so I met this guy who was my exact specific type, and he was really witty, and I like really smart, witty people. That is like my favorite thing. And so by all means, I should have went for it, but something was off, and I didn't know what it was. He was nice, everything was great, we had a great time hanging out, and I'm like, no, I'm not going to date you. Something's wrong with you. So I told him, we're just going to be friends. I like somebody else. And anyhow, a couple months after that, he ended up murdering his girlfriend, cutting her up into bits, boiling the flesh off the bones, putting the bones in a bucket of with kitty litter in the Port Authority bus terminal. It was a very, very famous case in New York. And all I remember is I just paid attention to that energy. Something was off.
That Mark's looking pretty good now.
Yeah, you're looking pretty good. But I mean, and I think all of us, that's a really dramatic story, but haven't you guys ever had a thing where you just felt like this person feels like a jerk, and then later on you find out they are? Or maybe you're in a situation, you're like, you know what, I shouldn't take this job. Maybe I shouldn't do it. And you take the job anyways, you need the money, it turns into a complete terrible thing. I think a lot of people have had experiences, or you get experiences too where you're feeling like this person feels really cool and I don't know why. And they end up becoming your best friend. These are really simple examples of energy, but we all have it. Just most people ignore it.
A lot of people might interpret it as, I'm trusting my gut, but you're actually feeling the energy.
You're feeling energy.
Okay.
And there's people who ignore it, you know, and think like, you know, I'm just being judgmental, or there's a reason to be judgmental sometimes. Judgmentalism, as much as it can be a horrible thing, can actually protect you. Now, again, if I would have been like with this dramatic example saying, "Are you being judgmental? He's a nice guy. Just go on a date with him." Who knows? I might be in the Port Authority.
Yeah.
Exactly.
He's just so handsome.
Yeah. So it's like, don't ignore the things you're feeling, people. Mm-hmm. Don't ignore your feelings. They're there for a reason. Don't tune them out.
Oh, awesome.
So is there a lot of intuition and gut feeling in tarot reading, or is it all out there on the table and you're just reading it like a book?
Here's how it goes. With tarot and astrology, you lay everything out, like in the tarot cards, you lay them out in these spreads, and then you look at the patterns and how they go together, but then you have to really feel, what does this card mean for this person? Because you and him are two very different people. She's very different. You could have the exact same cards, the exact same spread, it's still going to mean something different. And a reader has to tune in to intuit what that is. It's the same with astrology. Even though astrology is a lot of math, you still have to look and say, what is this? How does this feel? And how does this feel for this person? Let's say every single one of us in this room is a Gemini. We're still going. Are you a Gemini? I'm a Gemini too. Best sign of the zodiac.
Molly?
Ouch.
Okay. Well, Libra, you're acceptable. But now, okay, so all three of us are Geminis, right?
Yes.
But we are probably very different. We have different beliefs. Look, you're into gambling. I'm not.
I don't gamble because of lack of money. But
Well, you often bet on the Kentucky Derby, for example.
Oh, yeah, I always bet the Kentucky Derby.
So, you know, and the reason why we're going to be different is because, first of all, there's other variables or whatnot. There's nature versus nurture. There's choices. And again, a reader is going to be able to pick up on that this Gemini and that Gemini, they're still two different people. It's going to be a different read. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, I've always wondered, like, we just had our first baby, well, a year ago. And I wondered, like, what time of the year the child comes into the world and how they first interpret, say, winter or summer. You know, how does that affect how they grow up? But that could also be a part of astrology and how they, just the timing of everything. And yeah.
And it's also, again, remember, the child could come on a certain day, but another child could be born the same time, same day, but they're still going to be raised by different people. Mm-hmm. So it's going to be manifested differently.
Yeah.
There's no cut and dried thing. And I think that's one of the things that people also assume when they come for like a tarot reading or astrology reading, that's cut and dried, that's just the way it is. Boom, boom, boom. Now my whole future's laid out. No. It's more subtle than that. So it's really tricky, and that's why I think a lot of people don't want to do this for a career ultimately, because it's tricky as heck to really feel that stuff all out.
Okay. How do you, I know you said you have kind of a metaphysical community.
Yeah.
How do you weed out, like, the scammers? Because I did read a story about this lady who, psychic accused of scamming $800,000, arrested
There's
again.
so many stories like that, and it's, you know, unfortunately for people like myself who are earnest and who really are in it to help people, we spend a lot of our work having to undo what these types of people do, and it sucks. But that's just like, there's plenty of terrible doctors and lawyers, too. They have to undo that, too. I'm very fortunate that, well, first of all, we're very fortunate here in Milwaukee because we have a great tarot community. Okay. And we're all like friends together. We share work together. There's like Mary Ellen Pride, who's been in the business forever, longer than me. There's newer readers like Connie Kick out of Kenosha, Al Juarez, Jen Sintrom, and we all know each other, and we all hang out. And so, there's a really good core group. The Milwaukee tarot community are just fabulous, friendly people. There are a few people in our industry in Milwaukee also who are like the scammer, and unfortunately all we can do is educate people so that they don't get taken in. And here's the things that you want to look out for.
Okay.
The first thing is you want to look out for, are they asking you too many questions? Are they fishing?
Like John Edwards used to.
I think that's different, though. I think he's got he's in with the audience of people, so he's got to kind of figure things out.
Well, I heard he got busted because he had everybody standing around and like microphones listening to people.
Oh, really?
So,
yikes!
2 hours before the show, he'd make everybody wait. So everybody, comes with their own story and start telling each other their stories.
That's like that preacher that I heard that was doing that.
Yeah.
What is that, Peter Popover or whatever he was?
I remember hearing about it,
He has Confederates in the room, and they're listening.
Yeah, no, that's not right.
That's why he got taken down, because that came out.
I mean, it's always nice to have a little bit of information so that you know that you're not working with someone who's crazy. So I like getting a little information beforehand, but I don't ask very many questions. But so anyhow, if a reader's asking you a lot of questions, that's something to really be paying attention to. If they tell you, you've got some dark energy around you, and there's a curse on you, and let me remove it. It's only going to cost $99. That's your biggest clue that you are about to get scammed. You have no idea how many people that I've had to undo who said, this person said I have a curse, I got to get him. No, you don't have a curse on you. You made terrible life decisions, that's all. Now let's get you fixed. Let's get you making better decisions. Here's another thing. If the reader is constantly contacting you and badgering you, that's a sign that something's wrong. I never bother anybody. You come to me if you want a reading. I'm not going to call you up and say, hey, Mark, I think you need to come in because I got a bad vibe about it. So look out for those things. Are they soliciting? Are they asking you way too many questions? Are they,
if you want to get on our curse-free payment plan, 3 installments.
Well, there's a really interesting story on CNN, and I think everyone should read it. It's about Maria Duvall, I think her name is.
Okay.
But she was one of those people that used to send letters to people that would say, you've got some great news coming, contact me for a reading, only I'll give you the first 3 minutes free. And then she would basically bilk the hell out of people, same thing, doing this curse stuff. There is no curses, people. I don't believe in that. I think that is the biggest line. But that's what these people do. And I've seen people bilked out of thousands of dollars, and they've been in my office. I had a lady once who said, yeah, I went and saw this local reader. There's a local reader who does that here. And she said, she told me to give her $6,000 to cure my depression. I'm still depressed. And I'm like, you're depressed because you're in a terrible relationship with a horrible man. It's very clear why you're depressed. You need to end your relationship.
And you're out $6,000.
But here's the thing that you have to understand. There's people who don't want to take responsibility. They don't want to hear that I should end this relationship. They want to believe that, there's bad energy. It's not my fault, that my life is crap. I don't have to do anything to fix things. I want to let this person take care of it for me because it couldn't possibly be that I'm making terrible decisions. If your life, sure, of course, sometimes things do happen to you that you can't explain. You're in the wrong place at the wrong time or whatnot, but if you think that there's a curse on you and that somebody else is going to remove that and take away your responsibility for making your life better, you're barking up the wrong tree. And any reader who does that shouldn't be in business. So that's to watch out for.
So there's no union or guild or anything like that where you can try to get rid of these people?
No.
Okay.
And by the way, people who want to start those types of guilds and stuff, they're not the type of people we want in our industry either.
Usually a red flag is trying to start a guild.
It's a red flag. Yes. If you're trying to start a guild or an organization people who want to start those organizations, they want to do it to create bureaucracy and tell tarot readers and stuff. They want to get in your business and say, this is the ethics. Yeah. This is the ethics that you have to do, and you're going to pay this fee, and no.
It's like a homeowners association.
Exactly. And there are those who want to start doing it, and I am one of the fiercest people on anti-certification. I've written lots of blog posts on it. As soon as someone wants to come up with the certification, now here's the thing, because of scammers, of course I understand why we might want something like that, but that's why you have a fraud division in the police department.
Yeah.
There is something to take care of that. There's also consumer fraud. If somebody charges you $800,000 to remove a curse, and you think you've been scammed, you contact the police. You don't need some guild protecting people.
That's hard for the police to prove, though.
Right? Oh no, they can find it.
Like
so many of these.
No, I did the one curse I said I was going to.
Yeah, no, it's considered that's fraud.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, those people get arrested. When you're doing stuff like that, you're going to get arrested. Your career's not going to last that long. You're going to be in trouble.
Okay.
I have another question here. It says, do you do a reading on yourself, or do you go to someone else to do a reading for you?
I prefer to do my own readings because I know myself better than anybody. But once in a great while, I'm not objective because I'm bent out of shape about something. And if you're not objective, it is always better then to have somebody else look at it. You know, one time, for example, and this is so stupid too, I was so bent out of shape over this thing with this home loan that I was working on. And I couldn't see straight with it. So I went and saw somebody else and I said, okay, I need to get guidance. And what did I do? I forgot to ask the question about the thing, and I walked out of there and I got no guidance. But so I was screwed from the get-go, and I just had to then say, you know what, you're not meant to know. So now I'm just going to have to sit back and see what happens. But no, I will once in a great while get a reading if I feel I need to be objective, but I prefer to do my own. I know myself really well, so why do I need somebody else to look at that?
It might be hard to focus yourself. It's always good to have an outside
some impartiality.
It's when you can't be objective, when you're emotionally invested, get someone else to do it.
Yeah.
You know, that's when people are first learning to read tarot or astrology too. They have an outcome they want. And if you are hung up on the outcome, you're not going to be objective in the reading. You're not going to be able to see it. So, for example, let's say that I'm dating some fabulous guy, which I'm not, I'm married, but let's just pretend. And I am like gung-ho to see if this is going to lead to marriage. I'm going to look at the card. If I'm looking at it from, I hope it's marriage, all I'm going to see is the thing I want to see. Or if I'm afraid it's not going to happen, I'm going to see all the bad things I don't want to see. That's when, if you're going in that route, then get a reading from someone else because you're not seeing straight.
Would another red flag be that, because you said you offer teachings, the person does not want you to learn how to do it? Kind of like they got you hooked, you got to come to me, but if you can do it yourself, now I don't have the...
Well, I never thought about it from that perspective. You know, I think a lot of readers don't teach because they're not good teachers.
Okay.
So I don't think there's any problem with that. I don't see that as a thing. But I mean, I think if there's someone who's like trying to lord power over you or make you dependent on them, that's a problem. Yeah. That's also something to watch out for. I don't encourage dependence. And by the way, the people who are always the ones who want to get dependent, they show their colors right away. They'll usually be somebody who's hung up on a past love. 9 out of 10 times, it's always that. And they want to hear what they want to hear. They want to get a reading right away, and then they want another one right away. And I discourage that immediately. I'm like, nope, you have to put 6 months at least between readings. So if I get at least a hint of dependence, automatically that's what I do. Nope, can't do that.
Wow. Mm-mm. And that would not happen with a scammer.
No, scammer wants dependence. They want you in there every week spending money. I don't want you in there every week. It's going to tell you the same damn thing. Why are you coming? And this is one of the things when people will often ask, like, if they get a first reading, well, how often should I get a reading? I said, wait until you have new questions. Don't do it too often. It's going to tell you the same thing probably, and you're going to waste your money, and you're wasting my time. So don't hammer it. Don't hammer a dead tarot horse. Get your reading. Give it some space. Let things happen. See if new questions arrive. Then get a reading. I mean, for me, if I get a reading, let's just say I'm getting a reading from someone, once a year is enough. I have a boring life. Nothing changes in my life. I'm old. I'm boring. I've been married forever. My kids are grown adults. I'm not going to get somebody like, oh my God, this, handsome guy's going to enter your life. You're going to have this big hot affair. That ain't going to happen in my life. So I don't need to be getting readings all the time. And for most of us, our lives go on. It's not like these big drastic things happening. So you don't need a reading that often. Now, when do you need a reading a little more often? So I do a lot of work with business people. And so for business people, if they've got big changes happening in their business, that might bring up new questions. They're not hammering a dead tarot horse. Or if someone's going through a really horrible divorce, they may need a little more guidance, but at some point they usually let it go. So, once the situation's resolved.
What are some example questions people ask about businesses? I'm just curious.
They might want to know, like, I'm thinking about launching a new product.
Okay.
What's the energy around that? Or what would be a good launch date? Or I'm thinking about getting into a joint venture with this person. What do I need to know about working with them? So, I love working with entrepreneurs. I love it because it's fascinating to me. Business is interesting to me.
Excellent. Well, do we got any more questions, or should we get a little info?
Well, you did mention you teach yoga.
Yes.
How did you get into yoga? There we go.
Okay, so how did I get into yoga? I wear a lot of hats. Tarot's my main thing. I do a little astrology. My astrology is centered mostly for business people. Because, by the way, astrology is great for business. It's fabulous. I guide my business completely by astrology, which sounds nuts, but it does work. Once you understand, again, how the energy is working, you can really move around quite well. So yoga, the reason I got into that is I have a lot of breathing issues. I've had breathing and hearing issues since I've been a kid. And I was having tons and tons of breathing issues, and a friend said, well, why don't you try yoga? It might help. I'm like, yeah, okay. What the hell? I'll give it a try. So I took a class with this lady and did all these poses and whatnot and meditated, and I walked out of there and said, wow, I feel like a rubber band. And I feel better emotionally. Gee, maybe I have emotional problems. I didn't realize it. There's something to this yoga. So I found that it just made me feel really great. So I just started becoming a devotee and practicing every day. And then I took a yoga teacher training program after I had been doing yoga for 5 years. And so I started this weird little yoga studio. And it's kind of like it's an underground thing. I only work with 4 students at a time. And my concept was I wanted a small studio for people who are not comfortable in a regular studio.
Okay.
Yes, because, when you go into a studio, what is it? Everyone's a size 0. They can all do these fancy poses. And I've gotten yelled at in yoga classes. And I thought, sorry. But I've gotten yelled at for bringing in a water bottle or not wearing shorts or not wanting to do a headstand. I'm like, I don't feel like doing it. I'm not doing it. And so I thought, here's again me wanting control. I'm like, I don't like this. I want to do yoga the way I want to do it, and there are other people like me. So I have students who, maybe they're self-conscious, maybe they don't want to wear shorts because they're a bigger person, or maybe they have an ailment or an injury, so they don't want to be in these regular studios. So the studio's been going now for about 15 years. My students, most of them have been with me since the beginning. And they wouldn't go anywhere else because they get a very different experience. We might listen to some rap music during yoga class. We always talk during class, which is a big no-no. I don't care if you wear socks or shorts. I don't care if you have a water bottle. Just come in and let's work with your body and let's get you feeling better. Okay. Let's get you feeling better because I think, all of my work that I do, the tarot, the astrology, I just want people to feel better. I want everyone to win. I want everyone to succeed. Ultimately, that's my goal. I want you to make it. I want you to feel great about your life and feel good in your body. And you should be able to come into a yoga studio and not feel judged because you can't do a stupid headstand. Why do these teachers do that? They're doing it for their own glorification. I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in making you feel better. Yeah. So that's my goal, my mission.
I don't do yoga specifically, but I love stretching.
That's the
I used to be a student athlete, so I still do all those high school stretches, and it feels better, limbers you up, so you don't throw your back out as much.
Yes.
Or you just feel relaxed in the morning. So. Yeah.
And also the wonderful thing about yoga is it tricks you into meditation. And I think if more people meditated, we'd all be a lot nicer to each other. Mm-hmm. And again, I'm all about that. Be nice, be kind, stretch your bodies, take care of yourself, take care of each other, make better decisions with your life. Again, that's everything I do is all centered around that. I want everyone to win.
When I want to breathe better, I just don't smoke the cigarette all the way to the nub.
That's a good way.
So we mentioned meditation. Do you ever have people pull their phone out while you're trying to do their tarot reading or something and try to live tweet it? Or
no, people don't do that. But it's so funny. Back in the day, people would bring in these giant boom boxes to record their readings.
Yeah.
I know, isn't it funny?
Like the Ghostbusters.
Yeah, it was crazy. But now on the rare occasions when I see some of my oldie clients, they're recording everything on their cell phone. And when I do a reading over the phone, I record everything for you and send you an MP3. Yeah. So technology is awesome. And not everybody wants to listen. I mean, I never would record a reading if somebody's doing a reading for me. I don't record it because I'm not going to listen to it. I've got hearing issues. I'd rather take notes and look at that instead. So for some people, they don't want it, but the recording's nice to go and refer back and maybe see things you missed or get a different perspective. So I think it's a good thing.
See, I'm a Gemini note taker too, if you notice.
Yeah, I'm a huge note taker. I love taking notes.
Excellent. Should we do any of the email questions? Or questions? Real quick?
Yeah, we have a few that might be kind of fun and relevant.
Yeah.
Okay.
One person just asked, what do you do to get rid of stress? So,
Me? Yoga.
Right there.
Yoga and meditation. Also, I really go out of my way to live a drama-free life.
Okay.
You know, that's very important to me. Again, not only do I want everyone else to win, I want to win. And in order for me to do my work effectively, I can't be a hot mess. There's no way. I mean, there are readers whose lives are really messy. This is my personal opinion. If your life is a mess, who are you to be giving people advice about your life? So I work really hard to have a drama-free life. I don't allow crummy people to be in my life.
Anybody that tells you what to do,
that too,
gone.
They're out of here. But you know, I try to I've got a very healthy marriage. I've got great relationships with my adult children. I've got wonderful friends. I have hobbies that I do that really make my life enriched. I got the cats. You know, I really work hard to have a drama-free life because it's important, because that's how I want to live. But also, if you want me to show up and do a good reading for you, I can't have messy stuff going on in my life.
I love my cat, but I find he injects drama into
my life. Well, my cats... You know, speaking of control freaks, my cats are actually jerks too. They actually control every aspect of my life, so I'm not totally in control. The cats rule everything with an iron paw, so...
So they gotta go.
They gotta go.
Another good question. You have a six-part series podcast where you kind of educate people. What do you think of online education in general?
I think it's awesome. Because so many of us, you know, online education has just changed the world. There are a lot of people that maybe you don't have access. You can't get to the school. Or maybe you want to study with a particular teacher, but they live in, you know, some other country. Online education gives everybody access. And I think more access to education is the better. And that's one of the things I love taking online classes. You know, I'm taking one right now on how to do HTML because I'm very interested in that, which is oh my God, I love that kind of stuff. Math and HTML and stuff like that really get me excited because it's really, you know, I know that's weird, but
no, it's cool.
I love stuff like that. And I couldn't be doing that because I don't have time to go to a school. Here I can like study on my own, take the class, get the information I want. I think that's awesome.
It is not for everyone online school.
No,
because
it isn't.
You have to rely on yourself to get it done in the time frames.
We've got so many great different online classes. Some of them are so interactive, and you can go out and literally.
Yes.
I don't think it's good for 18 to 22-year-olds to rely on. Just because you have to set your own deadlines and make your own time.
Right.
They are not like that.
And also, it's just not for everybody. I mean, again, just like sports are not my thing. Not everybody's going to like online education, but also some people, you know, maybe find that that's less distraction than being in a classroom. So I'm like, whatever floats your boat, man.
Yeah. Any more?
Let's wrap it up there.
All right. Well, thank you very much for coming on, Teresa, the
Tarot
Tarot
Lady. Thank you guys for having me.
Hey,
this is
if you
great.
feel like you want to stick around for a bonus
really
episode, I promise to turn the air on.
Oh yeah, what's the bonus episode?
Well, we got some stories, things that kind
Tom
of
likes to read articles, and we'll comment on them.
just to get to know you a little bit personally.
Sure, why not?
All right. Well, where can everybody find you? Let's go through that. I think you probably have that all memorized.
You guys can find me at thetarolady.com. And so again, that's TheTarotLady.com. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. I love Twitter, and my handle is always the Tarot Lady. So
yeah, how'd you score that one?
Well, I got in early enough to get it.
Right.
There's actually somebody else, you know, there's other Tarot Ladies out there, but, you know, I've been able to brand that really well.
Okay.
Got on it right away.
Excellent. All right, Mark, where do you find us?
Yeah. We are Off the Rails with Tom and Mark, and you can find us all over the internet. The key phrase is Off the Rails TM. That's us on Twitter. That's on Facebook, Instagram, our website, offtherailstm.com. If you know someone who wants to be a guest, or you yourself want to be a guest, shoot us an email at offtherailstm@gmail.com. If you want to send in any questions to us to ask Tom anything, that's asktomanything414@gmail.com. This podcast is available on SoundCloud, YouTube, Stitcher, iTunes, and all your favorite podcast hosting sites. See our website for more details.
All right, then. Thank you very much. Make sure you get a reading from the Tarot Lady. She'll do it right over the phone for you. And remember, universe, we're not good.